Good afternoon and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone, and you have been on this show before. You've seen this woman on the show before, and we love to have County Commissioner Shante Avant, but she's also the president of the Women's Foundation for Greater Memphis. And when we've had her on in the past, it was about the Women's Foundation for Greater Memphis, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about that as well today. But right now, first, right out the box, I want her to put her public service hat on, and we're going to talk a little bit about the County Commission. If you know anything about Commissioner Avant, you know that she is a longtime public servant. She has been elected to the Memphis and Shelby County School Board and served and led as the president or chair of that board, and then made the decision to move to the Shelby County Commission. Commissioner Avant, welcome back to Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you so much, Deidre, for having me.
So I just want to ask, what made you decide to transition?
You know, the commission is responsible for so many things that are important to me, one being education, and they're the funding body for our public school system. And so I thought, one, I could make a difference. I hoped to bring some of my lived experience on the board to inform some of the policies that I think are oftentimes important to how we serve children, how we serve families in Shelby County, and resources, right? It's very different. The commission is the body that has resources. So for me, it was, how do we make sure those resources are getting to the folks who need that the most?
And it kind of helps because of your background in that education space. Mm-hmm. You can help families a little bit more holistically.
Yes.
When it comes to health care, and we don't want to talk about criminal justice,
right,
but in that space too, but then economic development.
Oh, absolutely. It's all those spaces when you think about with the county, with the court system, with our judicial system, courts and judicial system, our healthcare system, because they, think about public health, right? And our health department. And it's led by a fabulous leader, Dr. Michelle Taylor, and the work they do to really think about very specific needs of communities. Yes. And they do it from a data-informed, science-led, it's great just to see how those types of services can be of service if utilized in the right way. So it was a great transition for me. I'm enjoying it. I am challenged.
I know you are.
I am challenged.
But when I think about you, and I had this conversation with Chair Miska Clay Bibbs a week or so ago, I mean, you're used to dealing with a $1 billion budget. You've had to, have one approved when you led, the Board of Education. And so dealing with that type of money is something you've had experience with. A lot of elected officials have not.
No, they have not, and it can be challenging. We're in the middle of budget season now, and trying to balance our operational budget and our capital budget, right? Because there's a lot of need. Yeah. We have 2 schools that need to be built, the Fraser School, and then the school in my district, the Cordova, which is called the East Region School, and then we have Regional 1, that also is a very worthy project that needs resources. There's only so much finite amount of resources, and so prioritizing all of those things are very important. But I think having a balanced commission, it's great to have 5 Black women on this commission. That's a first ever. It's history making, following the footsteps of the one and only Deidre Malone. It's been a great experience for us. But it's been a great learning experience. Every day, my mom always talks about being a lifelong learner, and I think this has definitely challenged me to be able to learn, and there's so much to learn.
Absolutely, right. There's so much.
Oh my goodness!
And then you all come from. Everybody has different backgrounds and different levels of experience. I mean, you're a seasoned elected official. But you're dealing with some who this is their first time, so they're really learning.
Yeah.
And it's a process. But when you think about it, Commissioner, so many challenges in our county. What are some of the priorities to you?
Definitely our juvenile justice system is a priority for me. I think that's one of the most poignant issues that everyone thinks about, right? It's public safety. And right now our community is challenged with how our youth are showing up and creating trouble. Not to oversimplify it, but we know a lot of our youth have challenges. Yes. We know a lot of them are still reeling from the traumatic effect of the pandemic.
Yes.
And isolation syndrome, and that many of the ways that we didn't deal with issues or traumas or any of their ACEs before the pandemic, it exasperated, right? And we see that playing out with 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds committing crime and repeat offenders. And so there has to be a way that we are thinking differently about how we address those issues, getting to some of those root causes. And it is not being punitive, but it really does have to be more from a restorative justice perspective.
And it's not just something that we are dealing with here in Shelby County. I mean, it's an issue across the country.
Across the country.
And I do think the pandemic had a big effect. Yeah. Ooh, yes, why did out your face? We're painting in the building. And so doors have been opened, so we have little flies flying around. But I mean, the pandemic has, exasperated.
Oh, yeah.
Hasn't it? Yeah.
It does. It definitely has. I mean, just think of us as adults.
Yeah.
How we were impacted, right? And sometimes our young people don't have the tools or emotional intelligence to be able to talk about how they feel or express when they are in need. So it's shown up in different ways. But I think we have some really committed commissioners who are leading in that forefront of how do we make sure we are addressing the needs of young people. And it has to be from not only we can't just remediate these problems, there has to be some prevention.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that juvenile justice and reform is important to you. And when I think about the degree that you earned at the University of Knoxville, the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, you have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in social work. So, dealing with these issues that are societal, that not only translates from your public service, but it also translates into your professional,
it does.
Day job.
It's a good intersection of things that I love and ways that I want to make sure I'm contributing.
Absolutely. You have been with the Women's Foundation for Greater Memphis now how many years?
17.
Wow. And 17. The work that the organization is doing is phenomenal.
It is.
What made you want to stay? Because I know you've had plenty of opportunities to do other things. What made you want to stay and continue that work?
Oh, it's the work. It is the value of the work. It's the families we get to serve. Being able to come in community with families to help them, to provide resources through our grant making, because we are a philanthropic organization. Our goal is to raise money and then provide support to programs that help low-income women and children. And we do that in a place-based strategy. So we're working in some of the most disenfranchised communities in our community, in the city, the poor zip codes in the city of Memphis. But the work itself, it's rewarding, it's hard work, to be able to be with people who not only are so approximate to these problems, but they're the best authors of their solutions. And it should be them who create those solutions. And I love being able to utilize our platform, the mechanisms, philanthropy, to really support how families want to be stable, how they want to be thriving, how they want the best for their children, just like anyone else does, but oftentimes have not had those resources.
What have you seen over the years in terms of programming that has grown with the foundation?
Oh, well, with our place-based strategy, we've learned a lot. Yeah. And we've understood that there's, for us, kind of 5 tenets that really make the work, for lack of a better term. Case management and wraparound services is hugely important. Making sure that we have strong job development and placement and training programs. Youth development and employment is important. Early education is key, right? Because we think and believe from our 2-generation approach that it isn't just the adults that we have to help, it's also the children, and it's collaboratively and it's holistically for that family, keeping the family at the center, because they know what's best for them, but it's oftentimes just providing those resources.
And you have incredible partners that you work with. I mean, as you mentioned, you're a philanthropic organization. I think it's an all-female board.
It is.
That works closely with you
It
as the leader
is.
of the organization, as the president.
Yes.
And with that, do they come to the table with a number of ideas for development to try and help you raise that money?
I have to say, working with the Women's Foundation Board is probably one of the highlights of my work. They're phenomenal women. They are passionate, committed, brilliant, and so driven by a philosophy of this community can be better, and we make sure that it's better by helping one woman, one family, one community at a time. And so they bring a wealth of expertise from their various backgrounds, whether that's finance or it's marketing or it's fundraising, or when I say every sector is represented on our board, and when you have that kind of diversity of both lived experience and professional experience, and they bring that to the table, they're powerhouses, for sure.
So Shante, what do you envision like the next 5 years might look like for the Women's Foundation?
I think it's the Women's Foundation taking a pivotal role in creating or being a backbone in other communities, expanding the work and the model that we've created in South City, in South Memphis, expanding to other zip codes, continuing to provide pathways for families to move to economic mobility, increase their economic mobility, and social mobility, right? Because it's not just the dollars and cents. It's all the other ways that we have to show up in the world, right? It's your social capital. It's your resource and network. Oftentimes, I tell people, it is that cliff effect for many women, right? If they are getting support or being provided support, it's a one little thing that could throw the whole, cycle off, right? If I had a car that's broken down, I'm going to call AAA.
Right.
There's no AAA, and then you don't have transportation to get to work. And then that means that you're now losing your job. You don't have a way to get your kids to daycare. So that one little thing could really disrupt a whole cycle of how you're really trying to move or that pathway. And so what we want to do is create both the economic mobility but also social mobility.
I can tell you just from doing a little work with the foundation, some of the stories that we've heard have been so inspirational. I remember a couple of years back we did a story about the Booker T. Washington basketball team and how the Women's Foundation funded like a college tour for some of these young ladies who had not been outside of that, really outside of Memphis or the zip code, right?
Had not been to the river. Just think about if you're living right here in the city and you've never been outside of a 5-mile radius of your home. That is unbelievable. So for them to have those experiences, we've been with the Booker T. Washington Warriors for years now, and they have 100% graduation rate.
That's 100% amazing.
Graduation rate. And so pouring into those young women gives me a lot of great joy, but they are phenomenal leaders in their own right. And, it's going to be great to see all of the things they continue to do in the world.
So speaking of that, I mean, you're a mom. You have a daughter.
I do.
How does that make you feel? I mean, you're helping change the lives of families, specifically women who have children, right, through the granting process and funding different programs. But how does that make you feel as a mom?
It makes me feel proud, hopefully, that I'm doing something that she also can replicate one day. I think it's, pay it forward in a type of way. I've been blessed to be a part of a really strong family, really strong women. My great-grandmother was Kate Hill was a strong woman. My grandmother, Rosalie Franklin, was a strong. My mother is a strong woman, and so they really instilled in us that with all of the resources we have, there is a responsibility. And I'm hopeful that my daughter is seeing that model today.
Absolutely. Okay. A couple of final questions for you. I'm not going to hold you long. I'd like for people to know the fun side of Commissioner and President of the Women's Foundation, Shante Avant. Shante, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, Gladiator. It's one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Really?
It really is, yeah.
It's one of mine too.
Really?
Oh my goodness! You'll hear if you ever watch the show, and I ask this question, and I want to say, it was one Mike McCardle. I'm trying to remember Ramon what he said. It wasn't Gladiator, but like I'm a big like epic movie kind of fan, and Gladiator is one of my favorite.
Braveheart is another one for me.
That's the one I was thinking about. Braveheart. It's one of Okay, Shante. But that says something about us. What that says,
I don't know.
What that says is that we study the art of war, and understanding it is important.
Well, and as an elected official,
You have to understand it.
You do.
This is amazing.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, what is your favorite musical artist?
Anita Baker is my favorite musical artist of all time.
Did you see her when she was here the last time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
We'll move on. but
it's time for Anita to go onto the house. But I love her.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So Toni Braxton is my favorite.
Oh, I love Toni,
love
too.
Toni.
I love Toni.
And so, what is your favorite food?
Anything Italian.
Good. Anything Italian. I love it. So, if there's anything that when you were growing up, you thought about becoming when you became an adult, what was it?
I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Okay. What changed your mind?
How hard it was. Once I got all those sciences and microbiology, it was like, okay, maybe I should go a different route. There's a way to help people. This just may not be it.
But you're helping people now.
I am helping
and that
people.
Fly is just bothering us. Okay. So you're helping people now. You're changing lives through both your professional, job, and then through your public service.
I hope so.
I hope, and I know that your mom is proud. I know your sister's proud, and I know your daughter's proud.
They are. And I hope my dad, who's looking up above, he's proud too.
Sure.
He passed away in 2002, and oftentimes people are like, "Oh, your mom is." I was like, "Well, they were a duo. My parents were, it was definitely the yin and yang, but they instilled some great values in me and my sister, and I'm forever grateful for that."
Good. Parting words. We're going to wrap this up. Parting words. What would you like for people to know about your time on the county commission? Has it been challenging for you, or how has it been? Do you enjoy the work? What would you like people to know?
It has been challenging, but I don't think change comes unless there is some challenges along the way. I think it's strengthened me in thinking from more diverse perspectives, right?
Yes.
It's the first time I've served on a bipartisan, because the school board is not, it's not a partisan body. And so that has been really interesting. And oftentimes most people want the same, regardless of if you're a D or an R.
Right.
But it's just how you get there. And I love finding that kind of common ground that really rejuvenates me, right? To be able to do that work and do it in partnership with others.
Well, I have to tell you, Shante, the first term I was on the commission, it was a majority Republican body. And then that second term, that's when it transitioned to majority Democratic.
Oh, really?
That's when Steve Mulroy became our seventh vote.
Oh, wow.
So it was a change, but that first term really kind of taught me how to work across party lines, because that's important. If you're going to get anything accomplished, you've got to find, like you said, that common ground, right?
You absolutely do.
So that's important.
It really is.
Well, I wish you all the best. Anytime you have anything going on or just want to talk to our viewers, please come back and join us on Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you, Deidre. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Dialogue with Deidre. We will see you back here next Friday, and hopefully we can get rid of that fly that's been annoying Shante and I throughout this show. Have a great afternoon.